Hello, my name is Susriya Gangireddy, and I will be presenting for the 2021 Quality and Patient Safety Day Virtual Poster Showcase. This is our investigation, improving safety in the emergency department through the improved security at the ED entrance. Workplace violence is a common occurrence in emergency departments. In a national survey conducted by the Marketing Journal Incorporated in 2018, a total of 70% of ED physician and nurse respondents reported increased occurrence of violence in the ED over the previous 5 years. In 2019, there were 10 workplace violence injuries that were reported at the Children's Mercy Hospital Emergency Department, and that same year, 72% of the ED staff members responded positively about their supervisors' actions to promote safety on a local annual survey. In collaboration with the ED, CMH Security initiated universal frisking and implemented metal detectors at the ED entrances in November 2019. However, their impact has not yet been studied and is still unknown. So the aims of our investigation are to study the impact of these security changes on the identified objects by the metal detectors, on the reported workplace violence events, and on the staff perception of safety. To do this, we studied security records for objects that were identified and prevented from entering the ED due to the use of metal detectors and these security changes. We also obtained count of self-reported workplace violence incidents by ED staff members, and we also analyzed 2019 and 2020 annual staff survey results to assess their perception on safety and their perception on supervisors' actions to promote safety. And we used a p-value of 0.05 to indicate significance. The results yielded a total of 157,483 individuals who passed through the ED checkpoint from November 2019, when the detectors were first installed, to February 2021. During this time span, a total of 2,105 objects were identified and removed, and this amounts to a total of 9% of all ED visitors setting off the alarms. Reported workplace violence injuries decreased from 10 in 2019 to 6 in 2020. Delving further into a root cause analysis, we found that all of the 2019 incidents were related to routine patient care or a behavioral patient, and all of the 2020 incidents were related to behavioral patients. In 2019, there were 0 days away restricted or transferred by ED staff members as a result of the workplace violence, but in 2020, there was 1 day that required these measures. Positive survey responses on supervisors' actions to promote safety also declined from 72% in 2019 to 68% in 2020, and this has a p-value of 0.049. This table shows the items that were identified by the metal detectors and the total numbers that were collected within each category. As you can see, knives, box cutters, scissors, and other sharp objects make up over half of the total items that were collected. And I'd also like to point out the statistic of 55 firearms and ammunition items that were collected over these 66 weeks. In summary, 9% of all ED arrivals triggered the security alarms for a variety of prohibited items, and we believe this to be a considerable statistic. Reported workplace violence events decreased from 10 in 2019 to 6 in 2020. However, they did not necessarily show any evidence of these prohibited items being a cause of these events or even being involved. And there is a statistically significant decline in the positive staff response about their supervisors' actions to promote safety from 2019 to 2020. Of course, staff safety in the ED is very important to maintain, and preventing the entry of these prohibited objects into the ED may prevent some of these violent events. However, there is additional research and intervention required to further prevent more of these events from occurring. And this study does have several limitations, including that staff tend to underreport workplace violence events, whether that be due to time constraint or that they are used to these sorts of incidences occurring in the ED, so these numbers may be inaccurate. And the impact of COVID-19 is also unknown on the study, as it may affect the perception of safety amongst staff members, and it may also affect general ED flow. For our next step, we aim to analyze family responses about safety regarding these security upgrades. And we would like to thank Children's Mercy Occupational Health for assisting us in data collection, and thank you for listening.